Hello, friends. Welcome to another exciting episode of Caught on the Mic. I am Michael Clark. 80 days, 80 countries, national anthems sung in 41 different languages. My next guest accomplished this and broke a Guinness World Record doing so before the age of 12. Capri Everitt is an outstanding young pop artist just breaking out into the industry. We have a fantastic conversation where we talk about her music, her career, and we have a little bit of back and forth about everything that is going on with TikTok and social media right now. I cannot wait for you to enjoy this episode and check out Capri's music. As always, listener and viewer discretion is advised. Capri Everitt joins me on Caught on the Mic today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of Caught on the Mic. I am Michael Clark. Joining me today is a young musician. She has a Guinness Book of World Records record for doing 80 countries, national anthem in 80 days, 41 different languages. That's huge. She's a TED Talker. She has just recently released a single called Relapse. She has another single dropping on February 28th. Capri Everitt, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I am fantastic. Has 2025 been off to a good start for you so far?
Well, 2025 has been off to a very interesting start. I don't know where you are, but I'm in LA.
Yeah.
So, started 2025, evacuated from my new spot, and then TikTok got banned, and I'm like, I do TikTok. So it's
Mm-hmm.
been off to an interesting start for sure. Definitely things are a little weird in this city, but lots of good things happening too, lots of projects on the move. So, it's not off to a bad start, just a very interesting one.
Well, 2 days ago, I was having a conversation with Sharna Burgess from Dancing with the Stars, and she was kind of relaying her experience with the fires and living in, the vicinity of LA. Like, so far for you personally, how has that impacted you? Because I know for her, she was talking about how a few days felt like a few years just because of the madness that was going on.
Yeah, I mean, I can't complain because I still got my house and my family does too. And, there's so many people that are not as fortunate as that. So, as much as it's really shaken things up for me, it's like done nothing in comparison to so many others. And so, I'm just grateful that everything is where it should be. It's definitely like slowed work for me. In terms of like the studio I record at, like is kind of in a super bad spot right now, and so it's definitely super stressful for everybody, and just watching people go through that type of tragedy so close to you, it is really difficult to see, and definitely, like, spirits were low for a couple weeks there, and still kind of now, although I think things are looking up a little bit, but, you know, it's been a weird time for sure.
Yeah, I was telling Sharna that I'm in the middle of the country. I'm in Nebraska. And even from where I am at, I pitch like 2 or 3 episodes a day. I will email people, text message people, and not everybody's based out of LA. But the week that it was going on, it felt morally corrupt for me to reach out to people and say, hey, how about doing a podcast? And it's just like, so I took a week off and I'm in the middle of the country. I mean, did any of your projects kind of feel that way too? Did you feel like the momentum kind of shift for a few moments because of everything that was going on?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I work with this one producer who, like, no matter what is happening, he's always down to work. So I was working out of his spot, but I went on vacation for a couple of days. I was like, it was kind of the same situation where I was like, I could hit them up to see like how my mixes are doing, or I could just shut up for a couple days and like,
Right.
like my boyfriend and I got a hamster. Like, I just that like that's what happens when I don't work. You know what I mean?
Well, you brought up another thing that was kind of gone on concurrently, and I would love to get your take on it. The TikTok shutdown. My stepdaughter and it was so funny because the other night, she's scrolling on hers and hers shut down like in real time. And I'm like, haha, mine's still up, sucker. And I'm scrolling
So
mine. And then I go sit down in my bedroom and all of a sudden mine stops working. And then less than 18 hours later, it's up. I don't want to put on the tinfoil hat or anything, but it doesn't feel like it's the same TikTok that got shut down the night before. Are you having the same experience?
no, no, but
Really?
although I didn't get TikTok back the next day, I had to download a Canadian VPN. I don't know, they didn't give it back to me, and everybody around me
Really?
was, like, scrolling, just, like, daunting me.
Well, yeah, mine came back and it was pretty crazy because my algorithm was totally different. The
Really?
video quality looked a little bit different. Lives were down for like 24 hours, like you couldn't see anybody's lives. And today I was looking at it and the suggested friends look a little bit different. And there's all sorts of conspiracy theories. People are saying, okay, Meta bought TikTok or so and so bought TikTok. It was shut down because it's getting moved to a server farm someplace else because of a new buyer. I don't know. It's just been really weird, my experience coming back with it.
I was gonna say maybe they gave you some boof-ass TikTok back, like, I don't know. My algorithm's doing great, I don't know about you.
That's funny. So, as a musician and a creative person, how do you use TikTok to promote your work?
I mean, TikTok really changed the whole game for me, like, I went to 80 countries and sang 80 different national anthems to raise money for orphan children when I was 11, and I got more attention on TikTok, like, for making prank videos than I did doing any of that other stuff. So it was super game changing for me. I'd been making music since I was like 13, and music is hard. Like it's a hard path to choose, and it's hard to get people to listen to your music. And so I was struggling a little bit, and then when COVID hit, people were like, "Oh, the way that these people are getting their music heard, are getting label deals, are getting all this is like they have TikTok numbers." And so they were like, "You should hop on TikTok." So I started posting, I kid you not, like 3 or 4 times a day. And within a year, I'd grown my socials to a point where like people in LA were reaching out to me being like, "Hey, let's collab." Like, let's and I was singing on TikTok. So that's kind of how I was going about growing my platform. But all of a sudden I had people listening to my music, and like it was super interesting, and I'd always wanted to be in the LA scene and to be recording with producers down here. And so when I was starting to get that type of attention, I was like, wow, like this is really crazy. And I feel like it really democratized the music industry. And so I feel like it completely changed the game. And for those early adapters, like is the people that hopped on even earlier than me reaped the benefits even more. But you know, I think now everybody's realized how beneficial it is to utilize social media. Obviously you as well with having a podcast, you're doing long form content, but that short form content is still super important to promote that. So I think, I'm super grateful that I hopped on early and that it helped me. I ended up moving to LA and becoming a YouTuber, and I was in a content house. And so it became a really huge part of my journey and my story, but it's helped me parlay my music into success in a different type of way than how I would have experienced it if I hadn't hopped on.
Oh my goodness, you have incredible intuition for this. We're going to nerd out about this for a couple of moments
I'd love to.
because I think there is um generational preconceptions, and you can kind of look at how boomers view it or how Gen Xers view it, how millennials view it, how Gen Z and Gen Alpha have adapted to it. So, how do you delineate, separate what you're doing in the music space from being a content creator, or is it all one and the same for you? And how do you sell it to somebody that's older that maybe doesn't understand the marketing tool that it is?
That's such an interesting question. I think how I separate it, I mean, I don't even think I really separate it that much. I think the the great thing about now is, like, everybody I mean, even with my favorite artists, like, I wanna know what they're doing, I wanna see their, like, day-to-day lifestyle videos. Like, yeah, I care about their music, but I wanna know what they're wearing, and I wanna see, like, the the inside parts of their life, and I feel like fans have kind of adapted to that model of, like, everything being out in the open, and so I feel like I've always kept my music and my content creation together. Even when I was
Mhm.
in a YouTuber house and I was dropping 4 YouTube videos a month or, like, 1 a week, one of those 4 was always a music video. And so whatever I was doing, I was always making it known that, like, "Hey, like, music is number 1 for me, that's the reason why I'm doing this," because I feel like a lot of people have got caught up in the influencer side of things, and then it's hard to be taken seriously as a musician because of those kind of predisposed notions that those other generations have about TikTok and the seriousness of that. So I think the 2 go super hand in hand, and I think from the beginning, I've tried to really combine them to avoid that, and, of course, at times it's hard because the stupid shit blows up, and
Yes.
it's hard to get your music out there, and I think it's just if you make it a part of yourself, you make it a part of who you are, and if it is genuinely a part of who you are, people will see that and they will recognize that. But I think definitely, especially at the beginning when I was on social media, some people got it in those other generations. Some producers got it. I mean, I was working with a lot of people who had worked on like Disney Channel shows. Like the guy who did the Hannah Montana soundtrack was recording all my music because he kind of understood that social media and those YouTubers, it's kind of like they're running their own show. So I think people like that got it. But there was a bunch of music industry old heads that were like, oh, she's a TikTok singer. And I was like, I don't know. I was a
Right.
singer first and then I got on TikTok. But I remember I was leaving this Atlantic party one time and I like overheard these execs having a conversation about me and they were like, "Oh yeah, she's the TikTok singer." And I was like, "I don't know if that's good or bad." Like, thanks or like, "No, I don't know." So, yeah, it's definitely interesting, but I think everybody now understands what it is and what it can do. So,
You hit on all the hot parts I wanted you to hit on. And the reason I say this is I got into, I wouldn't say a debate, but kind of a discussion with some other guys from my age group about this. And I'm like, I don't think you guys understand that you're trying to correlate TikTok with the grosser parts of influencer culture and not realizing how much of an important marketing tool it is for creatives. It is for people that have podcasts, entrepreneurs, musicians. Like when I was playing music and I was playing bands and I was touring all over the Midwest, I wish I had TikTok just because of the basic reach that you can get in any given market because of that tool.
it's you look at even, like Charlie Puth blew up on the internet. And I mean, it was before it was TikTok, but Shawn Mendes blew up on Vine. Like, you just see history repeat itself in different ways, and TikTok happens to be that new wave. And I think something else will come pretty soon. I mean, especially if it like actually gets taken down for real, there'll be another
Right.
to pop up. But it is always, and before that, it was Disney Channel. Kids aren't blowing up on Disney Channel anymore. They're blowing up on TikTok. So, I think yeah, I totally agree with you.
Do you think that if an American company purchases TikTok, do you think it's going to be the same, or do you think it's going to kind of that corporate ugliness is going to slip into it and it's going to just become an advertising platform?
Man, I don't know. I mean, is it already an advertising platform?
It kind of is with the way that TikTok Shop has taken off, particularly this last year. It has gotten a little bit QVC, but the thing that I'm worried about with it is that every other scroll is going to be like a Walmart or a Target or uh, big box store ad or something along those lines, especially if it becomes Americanized. The thing that I said to a lot of people, and I have said to a lot of people, the thing that I think that made TikTok work is that the algorithm was so free form. Like where you get on Instagram, you get on X, you get on Facebook, it's controlled by the platform, where TikTok is truly controlled by the users. The algorithm is truly controlled by the users. And I think that's my fear, is if an American company buys it, its algorithm is going to turn into the same exact algorithm that we already have with other social media platforms.
Yeah, that's man, I hope not. I mean, my For You page knows me so well.
That's amazing.
I really enjoy it.
Do you have advice for other creators that want to get more engagement on social media platforms like TikTok?
I think the main thing that you can do for TikTok is number one, be tapped in. You know, you gotta know what people like, people want to see. You gotta know your niche, like who you're aiming at generally. And I think three is like, yeah, people can give you all this advice, like have good lighting and like make sure you have an engaging hook or whatever. And there's all these like kind of BS tactics. And I mean, okay, sure, they might work, but I think authenticity and just being super consistent with it is what's gonna actually get you more reach and get you heard, I think. I think Gen Z is so good at seeing through inauthenticity, and if you're just not being yourself and if other people are telling you what to post, it's so clear. So I would just say, yeah, post every day and post what you wanna post. It's always the stuff that I'm like, "That was so stupid." That's the video that does the best out of anything, so
Yes, and you hear it time and time again. It's like my video that blew up was sitting in my drafts folder for 6 months, you know?
right,
It's
right.
crazy. So that's fantastic. Well, let's kind of back up a little bit because we really got into the minutia of TikTok there, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. But let's talk a little bit about your origin story, how you got from Vancouver to LA, and kind of the trajectory that has brought you to where you're at right now. In your words.
Wow, you really did your research. I love that. My origin story, I would say I started kind of doing music when I was super, super young. I started playing the keys when I was like 5 and singing along to that. And then I started doing little shows and I don't know, automatically I kind of knew like that's where my passions lay. And so I did a whole bunch of auditions for years and talent shows and whatnot. And then when I was 11, the opportunity to travel to 80 different countries and sing 80 different national anthems presented itself. And I was super interested in working with the charity that we raised money for, SOS Children's Villages. And so, we left for 9 months. My family and I traveled around the world to all those countries. Ended up accidentally getting a Guinness World Record. Like that was totally not the purpose at all. But um, and it was then that I realized that like I should pursue this and I should pursue this wholeheartedly. So I started getting gigs for I did a TED Talk in India and one in Vancouver, and I was getting all these national anthem gigs singing at different tournaments, and I kind of decided at a certain point that I wanted to sing some other songs too, so I started writing pop music, and the first song I ever recorded the first song I ever recorded was in Estonia, and they wanted me to sing this, like, crazy Estonian song, I don't even know. But the first song that I wrote and recorded myself was with the guy who did Call Me Maybe, he's, like, one of the only producers in Vancouver, and so I was just in his garage, and I loved the process of making the music and making the music videos, and I fell so in love with it, and so the whole time I was in high school, I was putting out music and, like, it was doing okay, but it was difficult, and then after I hopped on social media, that's kind of when things started to escalate more for me.
So have you considered throughout this pathway, and I mean this in the most complimentary way possible, have you considered some of the reality TV singing competitions like American Idol or The Voice or some of these other
Uh,
competitions just because of the exposure aspect?
well, that's so funny you say that because I was on American Idol, like, 2 years ago, and they flew me to Nashville, and I made it so many rounds, like, I made it to the judges round, and then they never aired my episode.
Oh my gosh.
Same thing with The Voice, made it super, super far, um, then didn't make it to the blind auditions, like, last cut. So, I've definitely explored reality TV. I don't think it's I mean, I know so many people, that it's been great exposure for them and, like, it's never really parlayed into, like, super success for them. I think it's, like, a mix of a couple different things. So, I don't know, I'm kind of not into that whole scene because of, like I mean, I have some tea from Idol and that whole
So do
experience,
I.
but I'm sure you do. Yeah, everybody has to more because it's not It's not how it appears, but yeah. So I've definitely considered it.
It's not at all how it appears. I've had a few voice contestants on the show, and they've never said anything negative about it. But sometimes when you're having a conversation with somebody that's been through that experience, they can talk around it a little bit, and you can kind of piece in your own pieces and parts. But
Right.
my family had our own experience with Idol this last year. My daughter submitted an audition tape, and I'm in the middle of a 45-minute drive from one city to another, and she calls me really quick. She's like, "Dad, I need you to pull over." And I'm like, "Why?" "You have to do a video sign off for me to do this audition. I'm auditioning for the producers right now." And I'm like, "What?" It
Yeah.
was crazy. I was shocked she didn't make it through, but she was doing it in her vocal music room at her high school on like less than a day's notice.
Wow. Yeah, that's how it be. That's awesome. Congrats to her.
It is definitely not, from what I was explained, even through the producers themselves, it's definitely not what people see on TV at all.
Oh, and that's why
But
I'm such a proponent for social media because it's like you can control your own destiny, you know?
yes, yes. So let's talk about what you're working on right now, because you talked about some new music. You have new music dropping on February 28th. You talked about your mixes and fretting about those in the midst of chaos uh, a few weeks ago. Let's talk about where you're going with your new mixes and this new music right now.
Yeah, I mean, I dropped the first single for the project in December. It's called Spiders. And then I have the second single for the project. It's my debut project. The second single called Runnin' is coming out February 7th. The music video on February 8th, and then the project drops the 28th. And I'm honestly super excited because I've never dropped a body of work before. It's just been singles for years and years, and so I really put a lot into this album, and so I feel really connected to it, and I'm just super excited to have people hear it.
I love that. So you're doing a full collection, like a full album, or is it an EP or?
It's an EP. It's an EP.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome. Awesome, awesome. So you're doing these podcasts and these appearances kind of to build excitement for it. Um, how would you describe your sound? And like to somebody that's never heard you before, what kind of messages are you wanting to convey through your music?
Well, this project is interesting because I was I made it with these 2 incredible creative people, like, we're all so crazy, but they're so creative, and so, the project is very dance inspired because I make dance music as well. It's kind of like I do dance electronic collabs with DJs. I had a song Relapse that came out last week, and
Right.
that's kind of on my electronic dance music lane. And then I have my personal pop project that is kind of more my baby. I'm more connected to it, but I really am inspired by a lot of aspects of electronic music and the stuff that I've learned working in that space. And so I wanted to cross them over into something that really blends both of my worlds into one, and, my team just captured it perfectly, and so it's a pretty dark themed album. I mean, it's about having fun, but also, like, the reality of, like, being in LA and, like, struggling in the music business, and then, like, being a young person, like, figuring out a bunch of different things. So it's super personal. It's definitely one of the more personal projects that I've put out so far, and it definitely has some sadder themes, but to more up-tempo, upbeat songs. So it's kind of like a mind fuck situation, but I'm super excited. Can I cuss on here?
Oh yeah, be you,
Okay.
man. Because honestly, I use the word fucking shit like punctuation marks. So
Awesome. Yeah. Good to know, good to know. Sometimes sometimes there's rules. So yeah, that's what the project's about, and I have some exciting visuals coming out for them as well for the Spiders music video. I rented a tarantula or hired a tarantula as an actor for my music video, and so I'm doing a lot of things that are just weird and crazy and trying out new stuff, and so yeah, it's super exciting.
ah, that's fantastic. Now, who are some artists that have inspired you along the way and made you want to get into music and create your own sound and style?
I mean, I grew up around really good music. Like, my dad would always go around the house playing Christina Aguilera and Justin Timberlake and all the Timbaland creations, Britney Spears, Ariana Grande. So I just grew up listening to that pop sound, and I just fell in love with it. And I kind of always knew that that's the direction that I wanted to go. And I mean, I still listen to those artists today. They're still kind of what inspires my music.
That's fantastic. So, if you were to kind of plot out your career and look at it 2 years from now and then 5 years from now, where do you see yourself 2 years from now? And where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
I mean, I hope the future is a reflection of where I'm at right now, but on a grander scale. Like, I love what I do, and I'm blessed enough to, be in the studio a lot of the time and doing shows and fun events and meeting really cool people. And so I would love to do that and just keep scaling it up. Like, my biggest dream is to do arena tours, and so I just wanna level up and to always be writing and creating music because ultimately that's my favorite part of it all.
So, are there any tours in the pipeline now for you?
I don't have tours planned at the moment. I might be doing South by Southwest in March. We'll see about that. Am I'm doing a lot of camps, a lot of writing camps. I'm super focused on the music creation process right now, but you know, in the future.
That's great. That's great. Well, I'm not going to hold up too much more of your time, but I've really enjoyed this conversation, particularly our nerding out about TikTok, because I don't
Yep.
have a lot of people that get it the way that you get it.
I appreciate that.
So part of the caught on the mic ecosystem is I like looking at things through windshields versus rear view mirrors. I don't like talking about clickbaity controversial topics. That's not what I do here. What I like to do is focus on people and personalities and our efforts to make the world a better place. So my question for you is, what's your advice for making the world a better place tomorrow than what it is today?
Man, that's a hard one. I don't know if I'm wise enough for this. I would say, you know, it's the little things that make a big difference. Like, I can remember so many instances of things that made such a big difference in my life and inspired me to do so many other good things for other people. And it like just took somebody a second to do. It was like a moment where they acknowledged me, or like a moment where they said something nice, and then you want to go pass that energy on. And while that might seem super minuscule on a grander scale, if everybody's doing that, I think it will inspire change in bigger ways. So I guess that's my answer.
I love that. I love that. Tell my audience where they can find you online, your TikTok handle, your Instagram handle, your website. Plug it all, my friend.
Yeah, you can find me on everything at Capri Everett.
Excellent. Excellent. So, if you were to pick one of your songs to be a jump in point for a new listener, what song would you choose?
I would tell them to listen to Break. It came out in August. I held on to the song for like 2 years, and then I dropped it, and it's one of my favorites for sure. So I would say to understand me, listen to Break.
I love that. I love that. Capri Everett, thank you so much for doing the podcast. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I want you to know that when somebody does my show, I keep an eye on them. I become permanently invested in them. I am looking forward to seeing your career trajectory, and I've enjoyed this conversation, and the door is always open for you to come back anytime you want.
Thank you so much, and likewise, thank you so much for having me.
The world's a much better place with you in it, my friend.
Thank you. That's so nice.